So, hello everybody, my name is Anurshag and welcome today to another video on the channel. And this could be perhaps the greatest game I have ever seen. Chess.com thinks I played this game as 1850 and my opponent as 1000, but don't believe that. I played it as an 18 and my opponent as a 10. Let's begin. E4 and B and D5 because God forbid we don't have a minus zero point 0.9 advantage on the first move. Now I decide to keep the pawn which I was granted, but after it's attacked again, I just completely hang it. Alright, now I trade and now I block my bishop because that is what we teach beginners. After that, he goes queen to c6 because the queen belongs there, not the knight, and I develop my bishop to a square where it blocks the f-pawn instead of doing anything more useful. And after this, my opponent decides to play a random fianchetto, and I decide to play a random queen move. And now the opponent goes back to d7 because it would be too obvious to go there directly from d5, and we had to make that detour. Now we castle, and as Lord Hans Feingold always says, us always play king b1 even if it's the most stupid move in the position. By the way, going from d5 to d8 right back would be depressing because why would you go there in the first place? So we had to make a 3-move detour with the queen. After that, we developed the knight on a very vulnerable square and we dropped the bishop back because we hate developing pieces. So I developed pieces, and attacked a piece. Now instead of defending it, who would do that? Let's just hang a free knight. And while we're at it, why not attack the knight again, which is now pinned to the bishop on the other side of the board? No, we have more important things to do, like hang a fork of the king and rook. But God forbid we move the king, we gotta move the queen and then move the king. But now I take the rook because I pre-moved that and his queen somehow is in the game. Alright, now God forbid we play queen to c3 so that we can threaten the pin. No, that is way too obvious. Instead, we gotta bring the bishop back because we are inspired, because we hate developing pieces. After that, we castle because we finally realized we can do that, not as if it wouldn't be important 15 moves earlier. And now we play rook to e1 where it does absolutely nothing. After that, we go with a queen to a random square, and I decide to push a pawn 1 square because it is illegal to push a pawn 2 squares. Now we attack a pawn that is defended twice, and we push a pawn 1 square because God forbid we pushed the pawn 2 squares and trapped the bishop. Now we play a5, trying to clamp down on the attack, but our queen just gets kicked. And after that, God forbid we play a normal move, and we play bishop to d4, hanging the bishop. But the opponent is feeling nice, so he doesn't take it. So we go back, and he hangs his bishop in return. But I'm feeling nice as well, so we repeat the position like professionals. And now we suddenly go back with the bishop, and there is always a threat to take on b3 now. I hope that he will do something very, 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 very important with that threat, and that he will definitely capitalize on it. Now we play d4, pushing the bishop back, and after it slides back, we gotta slide our bishop back too because we feel inspired. After this, we slide the queen forward because there have not been many queen moves in this game already. Now we make connect 3 meet r connect 3 because God forbid we take on b3 first. And now we develop the bishop because the route from g2 to a4, which would do the exact same thing, would feel too obvious. Now we develop the bishop hitting the rook on e1, but it's completely useless because I can just threaten checkmate. Alright, you defend it, by God forbid I threaten it again and I move the rook. Alright, fine, we move the rook to a square where it just looks into a pawn and does absolutely nothing in the return. And now we go to queen to e4, looking at h7, which is the only reason why we went there. And when it is allowed, we don't even go there and we attack the queen. And now God forbid that after f4 we take a free pawn because the pawn is pinned to the rook and we would literally win 2 pawns for that exchange. But no, I go right back because that would be too obvious to trade queens in a winning position and trade rooks and win 2 pawns in that. And now that the pawn is hanging, God forbid we take it and we move a rook to a square where it does absolutely nothing. Now God forbid we take that pawn again, but we instead say hi to the bishop. The bishop slides back, so we feel inspired and slide back as well because we hate developing pieces. Now we go back and the bishop says hi again, but this time we just let it stare and die. Alright, now we play rook to c8 because that is definitely a good move, allowing us to anchor the bishop on d6. Psych, I didn't even do that, and I went to f4, not even creating a blockade of the 2 strong central pawns. But God forbid we do anything normal, and now it would be a great time to drop the bishop back again because remember, it hates being developed. Now for the quintillion zillionth time we should have taken on b3, but we decided to prepare it. But now I can slide the bishop back because the other bishop hates activity as well. And after we take in the worst possible moment in the past 30 moves, which is an art on its own, we can take back and have a very strong pawn structure, and you have no threats. But Psych, I think you have threats because you are suddenly pointing at a pawn that is protected 2 times, and if I move the bishop, it can be protected 3 times. Psych, and you hang a pawn in between that. Now we slide off good. At least we didn't allow queen to f5 check. But now we slide back because remember, the bishop hates being developed. And now after rook to b8, we finally take the pawn that has been hanging for 14 centuries at this point. Now the queen slides over and the bishop takes it. But after the king moves for absolutely random reasons, we decide to drop the bishop back because it hates being developed, instead of trading a rook in a winning position. Alright, now we push a random pawn because there is nothing else better to do, and we slide the queen 1 square because there is also nothing else better to do. Now we hang the rook because why not? There have been already 4 horses, 15 barns, and 4 towers hanging in this game, and we decide to not take that rook and not take a free pawn with check, but instead slide randomly to f3, which God knows what does. Because now we hang the rook and we hang a fork and we hang checkmate, but I didn't even realize in the game that this was checkmate because I thought that I am just forking him and the pawn on f5 because God forbid I looked at the rook on e8 that is hanging by 2 different pieces at once. So may you have a nice day everybody, and may God bless you all.